What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Manga Sutra manga review, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a horror romance drama called Mashuri No Hako by Michiru Karakusa. The manga starts off with a severed, decaying head in the woods covered in vines, and in the next few panels we see a humanoid figure that is covered in very thick and dense vines that seems to reside within a box in the middle of those woods. We then transition to our main character, Gunji Yukido, who is moving to a small village. We then learn that his main motivations for moving to the small village is because his older brother is getting married. And as the younger brother, he doesn't want to be known as the little brother that is still living with his parents. Luckily for Gunji, he has a colleague that he knows in this village that is hooking him up as a teacher's assistant. And as we see Gunji being introduced to this class of what seems to be high schoolers, they are roasting him, calling him an herbivore, saying that he's never had a girl. And his friend is trying to take the heat off of him, saying, hey, save that for me. Gunji isn't too fazed by that. He's being brought up to speed by the fellow staff members at school, and they inform him that he needs to be very observant about the students' behavior, because in the village, over 56 people have been missing for 6 to 10 years, and in those instances, even, police detectives and investigators and other people that went looking, they have disappeared even looking for those people. So it's not too out of the ordinary for somebody to just disappear out of the blue. And Yukido is assigned to the floral arrangement club, and he's supposed to meet and talk with this volunteer who commonly donates flowers to the club. This volunteer turns out to be an old man. And as he's talking to the old man seems nice. He has a bundle of flowers that he's collected and everything. He gives them to Gunji. And he then wants to talk with Gunji even further, more personally. And he notices how young and vibrant and youthful Gunji is, which is a very strange set of words for an old man to say to a young man, of course. But he gives Gunji this very special flower. And Gunji notices that it is a very vibrant red. And as he begins to smell the flower, he becomes overpowered and disoriented by the aroma of the flower. And he notices that the vibrant red of the flower is almost poisonous. But before he can really react, he begins to bleed from the nose and he begins to lose consciousness. This is when he wakes up in the middle of the woods in his car, and there's no one else around. He's trying to collect himself. He's trying to figure out what's going on. How did he end up there? And his arm ends up hitting a bundle of vines that contains this box. And as he's inspecting the box, he gets attacked by the old man, who's the volunteer for the floral arrangement club. And the old man is telling him that this is the only way, and that he doesn't really want to do this, but the box is never going to go, or this is the only way to escape the box. And as he's attacking Gunji with this shovel, intent on seemingly killing him, we see this blackout between panels. And then on the next page, we see Gunji is covered in blood and the old man is dead on the ground. And it seems that Gunji acted in self-defense and murdered the old man instead. And as Gunji is trying to compose himself, as Gunji is trying to figure out where did it all go wrong and how he's going to explain this, how is he going to possibly get away with murder, he notices a noise in the woods. And this is where we see this humanoid figure. It seems to be, in my opinion, a schoolgirl, just judging from the way the body structure is. But we see this humanoid figure that is covered in vines, thickly covered in vines, where you can barely see any actual human features at all except these eyes. And these eyes are staring right at Gunji and right at the old man on the ground that's dead. And then this figure lunges at Gunji, and these vines begin to envelop him. And then Gunji wakes up in the hospital. He has no idea how he got to the hospital. He has no idea what was happening, but his wounds have been tended to. There is no questions about the missing old man. He's talking to his friend who's telling him to take it easy, and that they're just glad that he didn't disappear, and that he just needs to rest a little bit. The nurse comes in. She is inspecting his wounds, telling him to just take it easy, rest, remove the IV from his arm. And then she also notes the flower that was with him when they found him, and how he seemed to act as if the flower was very important to him. And this breaks his mind because he was thinking that the murder of the old man, the creature that he saw, all of this was just a nightmare, some weird trip out from some type of illusion or whatever, from being unconscious. But the flower has solidified that this is reality. The old man did give him the flower. The old man did most likely get murdered. That the events did happen. And so he is struggling to get up, but he leaves the room. And as the nurse is trying to stop him, she notices the flower, and she goes to get closer to the flower, and she notices that it has a pleasant aroma. And Junji is walking around the hospital, but he's tripping balls, all right? He's seeing the old man in patients that are being rolled around. He's seeing basically like different types of flashbacks to the events, and we also see weird stuff going on. There's vines growing under his hospital bed. Basically, we also see the nurse basically moving around the halls. Her eyes are bleeding, her nose is bleeding, her mouth is bleeding. There's weird stuff in her mouth, and she has the flower in her pocket, and she has this very off center look about her, as if she's in a daze, she's in a trance basically. And basically Gunji is trying to figure out more, so he's asking around the school, not trying to draw too much attention. One of the co-workers explains to him that the village is cursed, and that people try to stay away from the flowers, and that there are special type of flowers that are grown in the mountains, and that when people smell these flowers, they feel happy, they feel euphoria, they feel pleasure, and they begin to enter this crazed state where they feel like killing each other will grant them eternal youth and basically longevity and stuff like that. Then there was another rumor that the flowers are predatory, that the flowers lure people in, and that the vines envelop people and you become bait and nutrients for the flowers. And we see as Gunji is sleeping, he has this nightmare that he goes to the woods because he receives a letter 2 days after the incident from the old man that is supposedly dead. We still don't hear anything about the old man. The nurse is also missing from the hospital. They have noticed that she has not shown up in 2 days, and she hasn't been home either for 2 days. So she disappeared as well. And in both of these connections, there's a flower. But as Gunji's going through this nightmare, he goes to the woods. He begins to be enveloped by these vines. These vines begin to basically take out his eyes and sever his head, and his body's dragged up a tree. And he wakes up. He wakes up. And I'm just gonna say this manga is very, very interesting. It's a very, very interesting read. I really want to understand what's going on with the humanoid that is covered in vines in the middle of the woods. It seems to borderline on the psychological aspect and the supernatural aspect. Is this all just in Gunji's head, or is he actually experiencing these things? What is the reason that 56 or over 50 people have been disappearing in such a short amount of time? And what was the old man talking about with the box? And is these things that Gunji is seeing real or not? Because we see these vines appear out of his bag, or growing out of his bag. We see these vines growing underneath his bed. We even see him hallucinating that there is a head that's covered in vines with an eye looking at him, when it's really just a pot plant. And so we just gotta ask, what is really reality and what is hallucination here? And I like mangas like that make you think. The art style for it is pretty much in line with other horror mangas. I do think a lot more detail was put into the vines and the floral aspects and the setting than the characters, but they're not lacking either. I would recommend you guys read this manga. You definitely give it a try. I'm going to be reading a couple more chapters. I enjoyed making this manga review. I just kind of getting in the swing of doing these things again. So even if this isn't my best, it is me getting back into doing manga reviews. So I don't know. It's either I don't do a manga review and I just never do them, or I at least try to make an attempt to do one and then I get pumped up to do another one. So this is just my introductory manga review into more down the line. So there are a couple of other series I want to talk about on this channel, and we're on a backlog for that, of course, for some of you that are still subscribed for manga reviews. If you like the video, you like my reviews, please subscribe for more. I also have other content, which is Pokemon battles and Apex live streams, but I would really like support on my Pokemon videos. I appreciate you guys. Bye.